They are the same questions which they would put in Uganda. Okay. So thank you very much for the questions. Let me start with the relocation of the people who live on the slopes of mountainous areas. Well, the question of mistrust of government or whether the meteorological authority doesn't give accurate information should really not be an issue for the people who are affected, because we are discussing an issue of life and death. From a scientific standpoint, anybody who lives on the slopes of the mountains at a gradient above 30 degrees is at high risk. And therefore, our plea and our message is that the people who live on those mountainous areas should have the consciousness that whether you are being moved by government or not, you need to move so that you are safe. Because nobody would want to see another person dying of things like landslides and these kind of the vagaries of weather. So we would not want to encourage that debate that when is government coming, or how come the predictions of the meteorological authority are not accurate, and so forth and so forth. When the landslides come, they sweep you, you die, and life goes on. But it's very unfortunate. I was in Kasese over the weekend where we were carrying out an assessment of the damage caused by the landslide, and also passing on the condolence messages to the bereaved families. It is very tragic. It's very tragic. And therefore, our message as government is that people who live in these mountainous areas, including Chigezo, where I come from, should develop that consciousness that some areas are highly risky, and where you can, you should consider relocating to an area which is safer. And we are going to dispatch government technocrats to these areas to help the people, to educate them. Because somebody might be living on the slope of a mountain and maybe it is not aware that there is a risk. Because in the Erigon area, even in Kasese, people just went to bed normally like the rest of us. And the landslide just came at night and swept the families, and people were buried. Actually, one of the 16 people who died in the Kasese, one body has not yet been found. We just buried 15, one is still not yet found. So it is very painful and tragic to lose a person that way. So we would want the people to understand that when this call keeps coming that you relocate, you shift, they should appreciate that it is for their safety and the safety of all of us. And you find in some areas, people have land which is safer, but maybe they settled on those slopes. So we encourage them to consider shifting from where they are now to areas which are safer and which are not prone to landslides. Like in the case of Kasese, we were told of a very sad story where one of the families, either out of realization of the risks or for whatever reason, they had constructed a new home in another area and they had completed. And then the man told his wife and children that let's shift today. They were in the process of shifting. Then for some reason, the wife said, no, let's stay here, we shift tomorrow. And then they opted to remain in the house. That night, the landslide came and the woman died. The wife who said we shift tomorrow. So our message and we are pleading with the people that those who live in these slopes, please find a way of shifting from those risky areas, particularly if you have land, because you find people have different plots of land, and some of the land they have is in safer areas. Please shift and relocate. So we shall send a team of our physical planners, environmentalists, human settlement officers to educate the people on the ground, and maybe even to mark the areas which are high risk. And then we are going to gazette these areas where we wouldn't want to have people keep staying there, and then they are at a risk. We wouldn't want to use force, but we are going to persuade and educate the people to do that. Yes, at some stage it requires money, and we are mobilizing resources from within the government so that we facilitate. Because somebody may say, this is the only piece of land that I have nowhere to shift to. This government is mobilizing resources to see how we can enable those people shift. But the main message should be, people shouldn't just wait for money from government to be enabled. For those who can, for those who have land that is less risky, they should voluntarily start moving. In the past, government has shifted and resettled people from one area to another, like we did from Bujisu to Kiryandongo, but that seems not to be popular with the people who are being shifted, because people want to remain close and attached to their own traditions, their own kinsmen and kinswomen. We even saw instances where the Bajisu who were shifted to Kiryandongo, they keep going back to Bududa. Now the approach we are now going to use is to allow people get land where they want, provided they are not getting land again in the risky slopes, and then they shift from the risky slopes to areas which are less risky. So they identify the land on their own, and the government can come in to provide facilitation in the acquisition of that land, and as the people resettle in those new areas. And like I've said, all those slopes, particularly at a gradient of 30 degrees and above, are risky. But our technical people will be on the ground to help people understand the kind of slopes, the gradients, which are above the threshold that we allow people to settle in. So shall we have enough money for the resettlement and relocation? Money will never be enough, but we have to start. And we are going to start with the area of Bujisu. Actually, there is an NGO, Give Directly, that is working with the government, that has already started providing facilitation to some of the families to do the relocation, and we're also going to mobilize money from within the government budget to support the exercise. And we urge our people not to refuse to shift. Sometimes it's difficult because people have those traditional attachments to an area where they have lived, but it doesn't pay for you to say, I have lived here, and then the next day you are swept by the landslides. The major intention is to make sure that our people are safe and are not killed by these mudslides. Now, the issue of the census, how much money have we put to the census? The census exercise is usually carried out in a period of time. So the budget is usually spread. So the budgetary estimates that we are working with, about 330 billion shillings, but spread in a period of 5 years. And some of the money has already been spent for the activities which you carry out before. But the major expenditure shall be this financial year and next financial year, those 2 years. But usually the activities start much earlier. But the budget is to the tune of 330 billion spread over that period. What probably you may ask, why are you saying major expenditures are this year and next year when the census is next year? This year, the Ministry of Finance through UBOS shall be procuring tablets, IT devices, which are going to be used in the exercise. As we digitize transactions, we are going to move away from manual and paperwork in the enumeration, but the enumerators are going to be having smart devices so that they capture the information digitally and transmit the information to the server so that in real time we shall be having information. So this is a departure from the traditional way of having forms to be filled with a pen and the paper. This time around we shall be using smart devices which have to be procured early, because we are now in a digital era, in an IT era, and that's why part of the money will be needed this financial year to procure these devices, which shall then be used by government to carry out other studies later on after the census. Like we have to do agricultural statistics, agricultural census, we have to do administrative statistics in districts, so the devices will help us henceforth in the future studies which we shall be carrying out. The morning